What's up, everybody? This is class 4, Finding Stocks to Trade. And this class is a really, really interesting one because the way I find my stocks to trade is very simple. And the way Elly does is very, very unique. And we go into sectors, we go into relative strength and weakness, we go into preparing, scanning, candlestick patterns to look at when you're scanning, and so much more. So, this is going to be a shorter one though, but let's get into it. So, finding stocks to trade. First things first is in the beginning of every single week, you want to prepare. You want to look at a higher time frame, a higher look, what stocks look the best on, the last few weeks, etc. You want to prepare on kind of a more broad spectrum. Like when I'm preparing on Sunday nights, I'm not just looking at a setup for tomorrow. I'm looking at a setup that could potentially pay out for the rest of the week. And I'm going to show you guys the patterns that I'm basically looking for on Sunday nights. So on Sunday nights, when I'm going through my stocks, which I'm going to show you guys the stocks in a bit, these are the things I usually look for. Ascending triangles, which is like ascending flag, falling wedge, bullish flag, or a symmetrical triangle. Or I look for a descending triangle, a rising wedge, a bearish flag, or a symmetrical triangle. I love the ascending triangle and the bullish flag is my favorite one. I love ascending triangles though. So basically with any ascending triangles, what you want to do is you want to find a stock with higher lows but relative highs. So look, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low. Build that trend line, wait for it to pop above the higher high, get a retest. The retest is your entry, stop loss under the retest level, and then it just rips. So these are like the more like broader setups you want to look for. Same thing with the downside, descending triangle. So you want to see lower highs, same lows, break under the lows, retest, boom. Rising wedge, same type of thing. Wait for it to break out of the trend line, take the retest, boom. And I'm not sure if you guys saw, but if you pulled up Google today, it broke out of like a falling wedge. So, and that's why it ripped so hard. And then bullish flag, bearish. You want to see a bearish channel and a bullish trend. So basically, you want to see consolidation after a move up. You want to wait for it to break above, take the entry and the retest, and stop loss under. Guys, so every single bullish pattern has a bearish pattern that goes with it. But what I want you guys to realize is that it's not rocket math, right? It's not like so complicated. What you need to realize is, look, once you get the breakout, you want to look for the retest, and then you want to put your stop loss under the retest level. So if it rejects the breakout, meaning it's a failed breakout, not a retest, you get out of your position right away. You take a quick loss. And if it's not, and if the breakout confirms after the retest, then you're in for a ride. But if not, you just take a super quick stop out for a small loss. And that's the beauty of trading retests. So these are the type of setups you want to look for on Sunday nights. And then after you prepare on Sunday nights, basically every single other night you also want to go and update. So you want to go and watch all those tickers that you're watching and say, okay, how is this playing out? How is this playing out? Oh man, this is creating a pattern I didn't see before. Every single night, I go and I review. I go and I scan. I go and I say, okay, let's see what's moving better compared to yesterday, or what had relative strength today. See if it can have relative strength tomorrow. So not only do I prepare every Sunday, but I also prepare every single weekday as well. And the most important preparation is done in the morning, which is really hard for me now because I'm in school, but I have my ways around it. So my pre-market analysis is very important. So I'm gonna show you guys all the stocks that I do my scanning on right now. So literally, like, I don't have a scanner, I don't have none of that. Although I do follow some people on Twitter that I like to look at their like things sometimes, see like what they're looking at. They're very good traders. But in general, these are the stocks that I like to watch and trade. SPY, QQQ, NVIDIA, Apple, AMD, Tesla, Amazon, Meta, Coin, Google, Netflix, IWM, Microsoft, Mara, Snow, and Coin. What's one thing all these have in similar? First off, they all have high volume. Second off, they're not spready, meaning you can get in and out fast. And that is why all of these setups, all these stocks are very, very good. And what I would recommend is if you're a beginner, I would take like maybe two or three of these, or even one if you want, if you're good at one of them, and only trade that for like a year straight so you can recognize patterns fast. Like I traded the same few stocks when I was just starting to. I traded AMD, I think, man, Nvidia, AMD. Actually, I don't think it was Nvidia. It was AMD, I think Tesla, and Apple maybe. I'm not sure, I forgot, but yeah, this is what I basically did, and then I started expanding after I recognized those patterns fast. So these are the stocks that I scan every single day, and these are basically the stocks on my watch list when I open up my brokerage. Every single morning, I also look at these stocks and see what have relative strength and relative weakness, and then if those are the ones that I narrowed it down to from the night before, because the night before, basically what I'm doing is I'm going through this list and I'm making like a focus list. So this is my watch list, right? Then I make a focus list. So say my focus list is going to be NVIDIA downside and AMD downside, but Tesla upside. And these are going to be my top 10 ups that I'm watching alongside these ones. So if one of these starts to play out, then I know, oh man, that could be a really, really good play. So basically every single pre-market, what I do is like, okay, say pre-market, this is my focus list, right? And I see SPY plus 0.5%, QQQ plus 1%, AMD plus 2.3%, NVIDIA plus 1.5%, right? Put it in the chat. Which of these am I gonna most likely play calls on? Yup, AMD. So then I'm gonna wait, and if I think the market's gonna rip, if I have a bullish bias for the day, and I see AMD, what I still need to see is a break of pre-market high lined up with strength compared to the Qs, since AMD is a tech, it's in the Qs. Okay. Say it's downside day. Say it's downside day. SPY minus 1%, Apple minus 3%, Microsoft minus 1.5%, Netflix minus 0.5%. What stock am I going to want to short now? Yep, Apple. And I want to see us to break pre-market lows and have relative weakness compared to the market. So you guys might ask, PB, what is relative weakness compared to the market? Let me show you guys. So look, this is SPY. This is the SPY. This is chart number 1, okay? Look, this is basically what you want to see. SPY goes up a little bit, Apple rips. Say Apple is the one we're watching for relative strength. Now we know we want to wait for a SPY pullback, wait for Apple to pull back, and then we want to take the dip on a retest, maybe on like a 90 MA tap or something, or a VWAP tap, right? But do you guys see how this is relative strength? Because look, when the market dumps, it barely dumps. When the market bounces, it freaking pumps. So what you want to always be looking for is those stocks that are moving stronger or weaker than the index. And once you find those, keep those on watch and just play the retests, saying this is how you'd walk it for the downside. So look, Apple, SPY had a big move down at the open. I mean, a small move down at the open. Apple had a big move down at the open. SPY had a big bounce. Apple was just creating a little bear flag or something like that, and just a little pop, and went right back down on the small drop on SPY. These are how you're gonna get mega paid. This is how you will have small risk and big reward. This is how you will have such a high win rate by taking these high profitability setups, by taking these setups that are putting you in a position to win. Yeah, sure. Sometimes they're already down a lot, but we have a way higher chance of winning at a setup like this than guessing and trying to short the top on the strongest ticker of the day. No, trade what's weak, trade what's strong. Only trade what's weak and strong. Don't trade against the trend. So, yeah, you're gonna have way higher success win rate doing that. And then that's literally it. I prepare on the nights. I do my pre-market analysis. I find the strength and weakness for every single day. I watch the open. And if I see something like this and this, then I know Apple, this is a confirmed relative strength. So watch dips. But we don't just take on random dips. No. We want to see dips to key levels, EMAs, or VWAP. So, yeah, I mean, do you guys understand? Put a yes in the chat if you guys kind of understand how I find my stocks to trade now. Like I don't even overcomplicate it. That's literally what I do. That's what I do. I'll review everything one more time. So every single night, I go through these stocks. I see, okay, what's looking good, what's looking bad. Make a look of focus list. I review these setups. Then in the morning, I try and see, okay, what's hot, what's weak, what's the market doing? Market's up pre-market. Probably going to be looking to long the relative strength stock as long as the open is strong. Open's weak, then I won't. And then I just trade the trend. I find the stock that's ripping. I find the stock has relative strength or relative weakness, and that's it. All right. I mean, that's it for me, guys. Elly, it's all you. Yeah. I use a daily time frame, Jeremy. Always. Sometimes I use hourly, but usually daily. Only hourly if there's not enough data for me to collect. So for example, like say like we're trading a stock that's at all-time highs, right? Then I'm gonna look at the hourly since I don't have that much data to look at.
So I have a different approach when it comes to finding stocks to trade. So we're going to cover that. But as always, I like to start with thought-provoking questions. So, what is LED's favorite ticker to trade? What's the one I talk about every day? What's one I just get excited about? Which one am I always at? Exactly. My favorite ticker to trade is SPY. I love SPY with a passion. I'm not a big QQQ trader, as you probably know, but I love trading SPY. What is SPY? What does SPY stand for? The S&P what? 500. How many stocks are in SPY? 500. Okay, it wasn't your question. What company owns SPY? Who created SPY? Called Spider. It's PDR. Yes. How many stocks are in QQQ? Does anyone know? Pretty sure it's 100. 300? 100? I thought it was 100. Yeah, if it's 300, it's fine. It's all part of the lesson here, okay? But what's special about this? How can we gain an edge? So I want you to pocket that in the back of your mind for a second. But I want to touch very briefly on something. Oh God, people are already blowing me up. I want to touch very briefly on something. Okay, how many times have you heard the term scanner or screener? Has anyone heard that term before? Scanner or screener? So I'm going to tell you right now, get your notebook ready, of how I scan and screen for stocks. It's all about the indicators. What indicators do I use? I use EMA, so I use the 8, the 20, and the 200. What if I told you I can just put this in a screener, okay, and have it automatically tell me what stocks are doing what? So you can go on Webull, you click the screener button, and you're going to set up 2 of them, okay? Or you can use FinViz too. So we set up FinViz. So if you're on FinViz, it's not going to be EMAs, it's going to be MAs. Okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to look for stocks that are above the 20 and the 200. Okay? Those are going to be bullish dailies. Okay? So when the market's ripping, that's where we're going to be. If it's below the 20 and the 200, those are going to be bearish dailies. So congratulations. By looking at this, okay, now there's obviously more ways you can kind of adjust this, right? So you can do this on Webull. So this is Webull. If you're going to use FinViz, okay, FinViz doesn't have EMAs, okay? I don't know why my Discord notifications are popping up, but YOLO. So FinViz doesn't have EMAs. They only have MAs. So what you're going to do is you're going to set a scanner for above the 10-day moving average, the 20-day moving average, and the 200-day moving average. That is it. Now, if you want to get really fancy with it, right, you can set up what we call a scanner. A scanner is more real time. So a scanner, right, you've probably heard it in my headphones or whenever, right? A scanner, right, I use trade ideas, will tell me when certain stocks are crossing over the 20 or over the 200. So that way, all I need to listen to is the robot voice tell me, Tesla, right? Tesla, it's bullish, right? And that's how you execute. So that's how I stay up to date real time. So you can feel free to use these settings here and create yourself a little screener and mess around with it. But let's get back into how can we gain an edge doing this? It's very simple. What if I told you that SPY is really not just Apple, Tesla, Microsoft? Would you believe me? What if SPY, okay, was actually, let's zoom in here, SPY was actually a bunch of other SPDR type indexes. So we're going to have energy, okay, energy, financials, what else? Utilities. I think real estate's one. Real estate. What else? Metals. So SPY is actually all of these sectors, even more. Would you believe me? But how can we use that to get an edge? Very simple. You're going to use something called the S&P 500 sector tractor. Okay? This thing is, I'm going to draw a heart next to it, the absolute key to some of my trading success. I'm telling you, I look at this thing every single morning when we're on voice chat, right? Why is SPY ripping? Okay, so we can see all the listings. Source Technology, XLK, okay? XLK is not doing anything, but SPY's still going up. Okay, is it being carried by energy, financials, healthcare, real estate, utilities? So you can make money if SPY is trending up or down and look at the sector tracker. So if tech, okay, is weak, okay, so if the XLK, okay, is getting bagged, alrighty, are we going to be long NVIDIA? You think that's high probability? The answer is no. You're going to be sad and bagged. If oil is strong, okay, where do we want to look? XLE, right? If XLE is ripping, all we do is type in on Google largest holdings of XLE. It's going to have Exxon on there, Valero, I think Oxy's on there too. You want to find which one's leading the stock market, and you will be very surprised that you can find very liquid setups, right? The stock market is not just Tesla, Nvidia, Apple, and Meta, because there will be a time this year, as there always is, where tech does nothing. And if you only trade tech and you don't know how to look elsewhere, you're going to have a hard time making money. You're going to get chopped up. But all you have to do is look at the sector tracker. So 9:30, 10 a.m. every morning, okay, and see what is leading for the day. Okay, see what is leading for the day. That's really it. So if banks are strong, where do you want to look? XLF, right? What is leading SPY? What is carrying us? It's not going to be tech every day. And here's a link right here. I'll post this in there as well. And we talked a little bit about relative strength versus relative weakness, right? PB touched on it. Sorry, my Discord notification popped up. I have no idea how to turn it off, but YOLO. So we talk about relative strength versus relative weakness. How many times have you heard me that, hey guys, SPY is trending? Okay, so it's a SPY. Why are we looking for shorts? You heard me say it before? Vice versa. If SPY is going down, why are we looking for longs? Banks are up, right? Exactly. That's how you find the plays. How many of you are interested in swing trading? How many people want to swing trade? Everyone wants to swing trade, right? Everyone. Do you think you make more money swing trading Tesla and Apple and Nvidia? Or do you think you find a nice daily setup on one of these random sectors, find a stock with liquidity, think back to options class 2, which apparently doesn't help you day trade, but in reality, right, it's just a joke, right? Just throwing shade, right? You gotta look at the liquidity of the options chain. So if you see XLE setting up, like I say, a bull flag on the daily, okay, a bull flag, make this a little bit longer. You look at Exxon, you can tell the liquidity of the contracts, you like it, you take it long, and that is how you swing trade. Swing trading is not based off of what tech is doing. There's so many other sectors. You have travel, everything like that. So if you want to get into swing trading, that is how you do it. Now, pretty simple concept to understand, right? How many of you guys are going to check this tomorrow? Probably all of you. But this is key. And if you really want a shortcut, and you don't want to look at the website every day, so if you check this at 9:30, the update's real time at 9:30, do you think that's going to hinder it? Like what if you want to check it pre-market? How do you check? How do you check pre-market of what's bringing SPY down early in the day? How do you check pre-market? How do you check pre-market? This website only tracks real-time data, okay? At 9:30, how do we check what's bringing down SPY pre-market? You guys want some sauce? You're gonna take all these symbols, and you're gonna make a watch list with them called sectors. So that way, during pre-market, you can filter. Okay, so you're gonna filter. So we'll draw a little filter symbol, right? Like it looks like on like a Google spreadsheet. You're gonna filter high to low. And this will tell you what is leading SPY pre-market or what is bringing down SPY pre-market. And all you do is look at your trend system. Okay, look at the trend system. Is SPY bearish? Okay, SPY super bearish and oil's getting cooked McGee. We're going to be short oil. And then you go to class 2 and you look at liquidity on the options chain. If it has a huge bid spread ask, right? Are you going to take it? Say this is Oxy. You take this if it's a dollar. No. Now what if Exxon, right? What if Exxon is $1 to $1.05? You gonna take that one? Probably better, huh? See how it all ties together? We're all following along here. Liquidity, exactly, right? So I can teach you indicators, but if you have no idea what a bid-ask spread is, or what liquidity is, or volume, open interest, any of that, all this is meaningless to you. So I always like to tie it back to other classes so you understand kind of the full picture. So pretty simple concept. Feel free to make a screener, and then you can look at all of these sectors. So I have a sector, and I've been trading long enough that I know each ones I like through it. But if you're relatively new, you can feel free to look through the options charts. There's gonna be stocks on there you've never seen before that probably have A+ setups. That can be really, really, really easy. I do trade the sectors. Yeah, I'll buy, let's say, XLK calls, right? Oh, another thing of sauce for earnings. If you want to play earnings lotto, and say it's I don't know, say Nvidia's reporting. Nvidia's reporting. You think the IV class 2 is going to be high on Nvidia right before earnings? Yes, right? So if SPY has, we'll say, relatively low IV, okay, so we'll just say rel low IV, okay? Now, my question is what do you think XLK has? You think XLK is going to have more or less IV technology sector than NVIDIA? It's going to have less. It's going to have less. So what does that mean? Your chance of what is decreased? Chance of IV what? Crush? Yeah, IV crushes less. So if you're going to take a lotto, why don't you just take the sector one? See how that works? Anyone ever hear of that before? XLC. I believe XLC is well, I know XLY is Tesla. So if you want to play Tesla earnings, so which is always a bad idea for what it's worth, you can play XLY. Or you could trade the shares after hours, right? And you're gonna have way less IV. So it all ties back. Now, for my favorite subject in the entire world. How many times have you heard me say the term TCM? TCM, 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 TCM. Or anyone ever heard me say that? What about 10 a.m., 9:30? Anything like that? Anyone? No? Yes? Okay. So, what time does TCMs are time, they stand for time cycle models. Okay? And really, all it is important inflection points in the stock market. Certain times where you wouldn't really know are important, but are. What time do I talk about every single morning? Every single morning. 10 a.m. Let's talk about why it's important. Okay? What happens at 9:30 every day? What happens at 9:30? Stay open. What happens at 10 a.m. every day? I'm just gonna say BS news. Today was the data. No one cares. Nothing good, right? What happens at 11:30 every day? If you've traded with me long enough, you know lunch? Nope. Sandwich. Nah, that's the next one. European stock market closes. Are we aware of that? Did you know the European stock market closes there? So if the European stock market closes, okay, and traders trade the US market in Europe, Do you think that's going to increase the volume at that time? Do you think there's going to be more market participants once they're done smacking around Europe? Think they're going to come in and start trading it? You don't, they're going to, okay. When Euro closes, European traders come to the stock market, the US stock market. But this is Euro close. In reality, it's from like 11:30 to 11:35. What happens between 12 and 1:30 every single day on the New York Stock Exchange? Every single day. Sandwich time. Sandwich. Okay. What happens at 1:30 every single day? I mean, you're in New York Stock Exchange. Every single day, 1:30, what happens? Roll to 1 day expirations? No. That's funny though. So the lunch bell rings. Okay, so there used to be this old bell that they would ring in the New York Stock Exchange, and all the guys would come back and start, you know, get all sobered up, you know. So the lunch bell goes off at 1:30. What happens at 2 p.m. every day in the stock market? Actually, I'm gonna go back to 1:30. So when the lunch bell rings, okay, what does that do? By the way, these are all on Eastern Standard Time. I'm on the East Coast. Anyone ever hear me talk about a 1:30 play? Yo, 1:30 is coming up. Let's see what happens. After 1:30, something will happen. Anyone ever hear me talk about that? Can't think of it? Well, what happens is the lunch bell goes off, okay, and he gets, yeah, PB typed in all caps. It's a money glitch. Why? Because what happens is price will trickle down and then 1:30 comes and it'll go back up or go back down if it's a bear trend day. So all it is lunch bell goes off and volume comes back before traders come back and start selling or buying things. That's what you need to understand. It's literally a money glitch. Like, no joke, money glitch. So always keep that in mind. If you're getting chopped up during lunch, just wait till 1:30. There's likely going to be a move. On big trend days, okay, if we're dipping by 1:30, you can literally flip 0 days at 1:30 to 2 o'clock, catch 2 p.m. algo, and you make a multi-bagger. But also, don't trade during this time. Good way to get very, very hurt and high chop. So we're just going to chop as well. So a little bit of sauce for you at 1:30 if you ever hear me talk about it. That's why. Load up contracts during lunchtime, wait for the 1:30 pop, boom, 10, 15%. What happens at 2 p.m. every day in the stock market? Every day. What happens? Nope. Oil pits close. Oil pits close. What happens at 3 p.m. every day? 3 p.m. every day. Power hour? Yeah, but why is it power hour? Right? So we can write power hour, sure, but what actually happens at 3 p.m. every day? 3 p.m. to 3:15. Bond market closes. Bond market closes. Do bonds impact the stock market? What's larger, the bond market or the U.S. stock or the stock market? I can say U.S. stock market. What's larger? Bond market or stock market? Yeah, the bond market's like 3 to 5 times more. 3 times the size of the stock market. And what happens every day at 4 p.m.? Market close. Bye. Yeah. So people say, right, Elly, you know, just kind of making these times up, right? Making these times up. Have any of you heard any of these times previously to today? Soft mentions here and there? No. Yes. Okay. So some of you are familiar, some of you are not. A few times. But let's see. Let's see. Here's an example at 10 a.m. So 10 a.m. comes down. Let me switch to white so you can see on the charts. Remember, time frame's always in the top for anyone asks. So 10 a.m. What happens? Did we break the pre-market low? Nope. What happens? All the shorts got jammed out. So yeah, the trend is bearish, right? But 10 a.m. volatility, reversal, sad bears, bears are back. What happens? After 10 a.m. it holds, the trend flips, and then what happens? You get what's called a trend, okay? Or I call it the day's trend, we can call it. All right? Degenerate gamblers till 10 a.m. After 10 a.m., you get the actual move. Elly, TCMs don't work. 30-minute chart. So you think this consolidation, you think at 11:30 when European market closes, little bump of volume in there too. Think that helped break the stock market out? Think it helped? Or do you think it was just coincidence it happened at 11:30? Did you think the market was trending, right? Breaks your pre-market highs, trending all day, consolidating out, 11:30. European guys come in and boost even higher. Okay. 11:30. So let's put an L for lunch. Okay. Notice the slow trickle back up into the EMA, right with those, right, EMA. Slow trickle all the way back up. Shorts are covering, covering, covering. What happens at 1:30? Boop, back down. You think there's a reason why we slowly trickled up and touched the 20 EMA? Do you think price reset to we could say a fair value or agreed upon price among traders that they can begin selling it? Because I'll tell you, if you're trading $1 million lots, you're not buying puts here, you're not buying puts here, you're not buying puts here, you're not buying puts here. You're gonna start loading once you get to the what? What's the 20 EMA also known as? The mean. So do you think the mean is a fair price? It's called the mean if it's like the average. That is correct. There we go. 3 p.m. 3 p.m. candle. Remember, always top left before you ask. Do you think we just happened to sell off at 3 p.m. or do you think something happened in the bond market that caused the market to sell off? Or do you think it was just random? Things in the stock market don't happen randomly. You have to understand that. If everything can be measured, okay? If everything can be measured and calculated, what about at times? Nothing is random in the stock market. It's really not. So it's important to realize like where you are. Doesn't mean that at these times that we're always going to have a mega reversal or we're going to rip. No, it does not. However, what this does is it allows you to be on your toes to see. It's like, okay, well, are my parameters lined up, right? Is the 8 and the 20, the Wombo combo, is that all right there? And we're coming into a TCM? This might be good. Let's take a little starter. And if we start popping after the TCM, right, then we can add it. And then we know there's a high probability we're going to get continuation or we're going to get a trend move. And that's really about it. Now, I want to touch on something. What time do these candles close? Is there any common theme among these candles of when these candles close? Is there a common theme? So JP saying the 30-minute candle. New traders ask me all the time, Elly, why do you trade on the 30-minute candle? If I trade on the hourly candle, would I be able to capture this move in here? Okay, what about 10 a.m. to 11:30? Hourly, you could for 11:30 to 1:30, but what about 1:30 to 2? Are you able to see that move on the candlesticks? No. But okay, so hourly, I can't see a couple, but in the 30-minute, I can see what? All of them. All of them. That is why I use the 30-minute system. Because I can see it all. Okay, we talked about 10-minute, here's a 30-minute. I mean, it doesn't get much easier than this. Price extended, right, from the ADMA. Oops. Price extended from the ADMA. Slow baby dribble down, right? It's not a short. I want to make this very clear. It's not a short. If they sit on hands and wait, okay? We're getting close to the ADMA. It's coming into our TCM. You get your pops. You break your highs. You'll notice a lot of breakouts and breakdowns happen on these TCMs. Another term that you've probably heard me use before. How many times have you heard me say front run the 30? Front run the 30-minute. Anyone ever hear me talk about that? So what does that mean? Okay. Not try to front run it, but what will happen is on, let's say 9:59, on the closes of the 30-minute candles, the market makers, sometimes, not all the time, remember, nothing in the stock market's absolute. Don't ever take anything I say that's absolute. What they'll do is they'll show their hand. So say, for example, we get, I don't know, something like, I'm just going to draw it out. Something like this. Like you get your doji. Okay, and now, so say this is 9, then so we do 10 a.m. close and 10:30 close. What'll happen is on this 10:30 to 11 candle, they'll make it look like a doji. Okay, but slowly, as the time starts to tick, the last 5 minutes of the 30-minute candle, they'll really start to show their hand. And what I mean by that is, instead of that candle look like a doji, they will bring it up and look something like that. They'll really fill out the body. And there is your clear sign of a reversal. So you know if this prints, okay, your 11 to 11:30 candle has a higher probability of being bullish, okay, and that's it. That's how you do it. It's just slowly counting it down. And you can see, okay, now we're ripping from 11:30, okay, 11 into 11:30, which is euro close. All right, let's take some off just in case euro comes and sells, or maybe you're at a high a day, or at like 500 on SPY. That's how you use it. That's how you use it. But front running 30-minute just means the last like let's say 2 to 5 minutes of the 30-minute candle, they'll show their hand more often than not. Recently, not so much on SPY, because I think too many people trade SPY nowadays, so now they just like to mess with them. But yeah, that's really it. I mean, if we want to do a quick recap, my favorite ticker is SPY, LOL. Create a sector watch list of all of these names and watch them pre-market and see like if financials is down 3%, okay, like you want to have that on your radar. Because if financials is bleeding everything and then it flips to -1% because it's rotating, you can be sure as heck, confident that the rest of the market will curl with it. And it's important because over the summer, tech doesn't really move. So you got to be, aware. Does anyone would take a guess these returns right here? What time period are these from that I selected? I cut it off just to mess around. Yeah, it's year to date. Why is XLY performing the shittiest? We talked about it. What stock is down the most out of the S&P 500 this year? Elon. So that is why this is the worst performing. Interesting to see XLC, which is like Netflix, what else in there? Meta, all those names are in the XLC. Financials been on a really hot streak. That's like your Wells Fargo's, your Bank of America's. Look at those daily charts. Those things are crazy. I'm not sure what Boeing is in. I guess they would be industrials. I don't know. I hate Boeing, so I don't really know. Technology is not doing as well as XLC, even though these kind of overlap. But that's it. So I know all of you guys are going to mess around with this tonight, and feel free to look at the options. There's a couple names I like. There's some I don't, but these, if you can catch like a crazy healthcare mover, like UNH is always a good one. PFE, things like that. Like you'll be early to swings and you'll be chilling. And these names, like they could be down 3% off the open. Your contracts will barely move, but once they start ticking, they really start ticking. And then we talked about relative weakness. Pretty simple concept, just takes a lot more screen time and practice. And then we talked about TCMs, all the different times they open and why we use a 30-minute. And then we looked at some examples. So that is really it. And then tomorrow's class will be a little more in depth and juicy. But sure, that's it.
Alrighty, guys, that is it.